Are you ready to untangle from your past, recover from heartbreak, and revive your life? This is Soul CPR with your host, Ann Papayoti. We've all had soul-crushing experiences and lost ourselves in our pain, but there is a way out. On this podcast, Amazon best-selling author, award-winning life coach, and advice columnist Ann Papayoti helps us navigate the path from heartbreak to healing. So now, please welcome the host of Soul CPR, Ann Papayoti.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me today for this episode of Soul CPR Healing Out Loud. Whether it's your first time to join me or you're back for more, I am just really appreciative and happy for all the feedback I've been getting and the value you're finding in the show. And I know today's episode will be no different. And you know how there are just some people that you meet in life and you're really drawn in by their energy and you know you want to know them on a deeper level. Well, that is how today's guest is for me. I mean, she's just one of those people. She waltzed into, or shall I say, salsa'd into one of my Zumba classes back when I was living in Montreal. And, next thing I knew, she had just hip hopped her way right into my heart. And at the time, she was a student at Concordia University, majoring in family life education. And since graduating, she has really dedicated her time and energy and passion to serving youth, whether it's been as a coach or running programs and motivational speaking, even. And I'm so very proud of her, Kimberly Watmore, and also known as Kimberly Ellis, and all that she's done. And most recently, she has published her very first book. It's titled On the Other Side of Yesterday, Breaking Free from Emotional Addiction. And I have no doubt that she will dance her way right into your hearts as well. So welcome to the show, Kimberly.
What a nice intro. It's so nice to see you. Thank you so much for having me. This is such an honor to be here.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm going to call you Kim, and because that's what I do. And Kim, it's a joy and an honor to have you. So I'm glad you're here. And first of all, very public, congratulations on the book. And it's beautiful. You'll see one behind Kimberly on camera. And then I have my copy here that she personally autographed and mailed me. So very happy to have it. Beautiful, beautiful cover. And I have to ask you, now that it's out there and it's published. I know it was a project from the heart and soul for you, but now that it's out there, how are you feeling about it?
I'm overjoyed. At first, I was really nervous. I remember when I went to launch it, I just hitting that button, like, oh, I'm about to do this, and everybody's going to know everything. But I'm very happy with the outcome. It's been a great month and a bit. I say that I've had a lot of positive feedback, a lot.
Fantastic. I know that positive feedback is sometimes that validation we need once we kind of put our baby out there because it's so personal to write. Did you find that it was such a personal journey?
It was very personal. I don't think everybody wants to, what they call, like, air out their dirty laundry, but I don't see it that way. I see it as an opportunity to help others and maybe to grow from my stories as well. I grew from my stories. They were deep. Some of them were detailed. Some of them were not. Some of them people might cringe.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's life, right? And just like you were saying, I know that you believe, as I do, really, that everybody has a story, but not everybody's, wants to write them or share them and publish them. So tell us a little bit more about your choosing to write and then share and literally publish yours. You mentioned
Yeah.
helping.
So, sorry. It started when I was in university because I had to write papers. My writing wasn't that great. I mean, it was good, but having been in Concordia and applied human sciences, my writing got better. And I started just writing. And I actually started in the middle of my life. I didn't start at the beginning, which really made it hard for my publisher, who was absolutely amazing, to be able to timeline me. And I just started pouring out like all these feelings and stories. And I kind of wrote it almost like in the third person at first. And I was like, these are pretty good. And then I just started putting them together and I'm like, this could work. And that's how it became a book.
Wow. And as a writer myself, I like to learn from other writers. So I was thinking of, what was your process? But you just kind of said you just started somewhere. That's what I heard you say. Middle
Yep.
of your life, you started writing and stories came out of you. Now, the title On the Other Side of Yesterday sounds like it could be in the genre of anything from a steamy, romance novel to grief recovery. But then you read the subtitle, Breaking Free from Emotional Addiction. And I believe that really encapsulates what this is really all about. So, how would you define, or how do you define emotional addiction?
That's a great question. So, emotional addiction for me, and I think it's a fine line. I think it's different for everybody, but it's those repeating of those negative patterns and having the same negative sort of behaviors that don't impact your life on a positive, and you keep repeating them and repeating them. And it's hard to stop doing that, especially when you were raised in a situation where I was, where the first man who I met was supposed to love me, did not show me that. And I was never made to feel I was good enough. I was always never chosen first. Somebody else was always chosen first, my sibling. So my relationships kind of reflected that later on in life. I was just not the one that people wanted. I was never
Yeah.
first.
Right. So obviously you're referring to your dad. So
Hmm.
eh, what would you like to share about your relationship with your dad and how that relationship became so foundational? I mean, you touched on it, but how did that lead into your relationship with men? What did that look like that became an emotional addiction for you? Not
So, yeah, it's a good question. So my dad was emotionally abusive. He was verbally abusive. He was physically abusive. Maybe that was his background. Maybe that was the way he was raised. I don't have excuses for him, but I can only talk about how I felt with my dad. And I was never good enough. I was told that I would never amount to anything. I would never be good at anything. No one would ever love me. I was told this repeatedly as a child. So, growing up and trying to establish healthy male relationships with myself was very difficult and led to some very bad behaviors.
Yeah. And I ask this question because I know working with clients, I see a lot of minimizing uh,
Hmm.
difficult relationships with parents and all. So how difficult was it to be honest about your dad in your writing?
I think if you'd asked me that question 10 years ago, I'd probably tell you it was a lot harder then because I was writing it. Um, After I had cancer the first time, my therapist, because I decided I needed to go to therapy, and he had said to me, "You're coming here to me to see me through cancer," and I said, "Yeah, I am. I'm coming to talk to you about cancer." It actually turned out that the problem wasn't that; it was that constant need for validation from my dad. And
Yeah.
he said something to me very profound. He said, "You're an adult now, and he's lived his life. You don't need his approval anymore." And it wasn't, I guess I wasn't ready to hear that before, but in that moment I was. And that's what gave me the strength to be able to see my dad in a different light and see myself in a different light.
Yeah. Mentioned cancer. We're going to come back to that. But, I meant in the intro, I was talking about, meeting you at Zumba and knowing
Mhm.
that I want to know you on a deeper level. And, you know, beyond the Zumba room, beyond being the fun loving, dancing, quick witted. Kimberly is quick witted, people. She's a big humor, compassionate, and somewhat people pleasing young woman that I met. Um, I also started seeing the little girl who was still trying to win the approval and affection of her father. And I saw that. And as we became closer, you began sharing the relationships or a bit about the relationships that you were having at that time with a certain man in your life. So tell me about this emotional addiction or a little bit about the relationship that you kept going back. What was the addiction? What was the emotion that you were addicted to that you kept going back to that was that repetitive habitual pattern that was unhealthy for you that you came to recognize later?
Oh, Yeah, he was actually the beginning of my writing. You'll see him in my book, and I thank him for the lessons he taught me. I don't have any ill feelings towards him. I wish him all the best, but our relationship was so toxic. I used sex to keep him. I did, because he
Yeah.
praised me so much at how good I was at it that I kind of put aside all the other things that I was seeing, the lying, the scheming, the conning, the cheating. And I let him validate me that way. And that's
Yeah.
wrong. For me, it was wrong. It shouldn't have happened. And I kept going back to it because I kept believing it. And that's what I had to let that go. I had to realize I was worth more than somewhere to park himself. And yeah, I had to understand that I didn't need his approval and I shouldn't be validating myself through that.
Yeah. I think a lot of women will relate to that, Kim. And you gave him a name in the book so people could understand it was an addiction. What did you name his character? The role he played in your life, I would say, is more.
Yeah,
You weren't naming him, it was the character, the role.
he was my addiction, so I called him Oxy.
Yeah, I thought that was very clever, actually, because I think when people can see that we do have these addictions to get that emotional um, fix again, that need for approval, even if it was through something that was toxic for us, right? That
Right.
that is the habitual pattern that we go back to, back to, back to. And I know, I believe it's a chapter you call emotional suicide,
Hmm.
when you finally recognized that that particular relationship, while you were being berated in other ways, that this was one that you had to cut off or cut out of your life, to walk away from. And again, I think you do a wonderful job in helping people make that connection of being addicted to something that's unhealthy, unwell, toxic, and yet it's a hit. Just like people that are addicted to drugs go back, it feels good in the moment. You get
Yeah,
what you need in that moment, and then you feel worse later, right?
exactly. That's exactly what it was. And it was repetitive. I kept doing it. And it wasn't until I made that decision to take back the reins of my life and say, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm worth more than that.
There it is. Valuing yourself more, and that gets to the crux of everything, where you had to learn to self-love. Well, it's time for our first break, and when we come back, we'll have more with Kimberly and more about this wonderful book that she has out on the market now. So don't go far. We'll be back with more Soul CPR.
Mike Zorek, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorek, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorek has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Soul CPR Healing Out Loud. I'm Ann Papayotti here today with my guest, Kimberly Watmore, aka Kimberly Ellis, the author of this wonderful new book, On the Other Side of Yesterday. Breaking free from emotional addiction. And that's really what we're talking about today. And Kimberly's awareness of the emotional addiction that was toxic for her and her ability to break free from that, and how she's using this book and her personal life stories to now help others bring awareness to the addictions in their life so they can also break free from them. And Kimberly mentioned her dad and that foundational relationship, the first male bonding relationship of any child's life, and the one that's supposed to love, protect, and honor her was anything but. And psychologists do tell us that father-daughter role, even though modern relationships or modern gender relationships have changed dramatically in recent times, that is still considered a very traditional role and expectation. So the father is the portal for us girls, to the portal to the world of men. So
Mhm.
that lens that you had was very, of course, distorted. So, and yet, even though neglect, abuse, etc., girls will always seek approval. They will always seek love from their dads. And that always word, how true did that prove for you, the always word?
Oh, it was, and it didn't just, I'll be clear, it didn't just go into my relationships with men. It's relationship with friends. It was relationships with teachers. It was relationships with anybody. I wanted to be good enough. And I didn't have that. And I went home and I heard it all the time. And then I went to school and I wouldn't be chosen, or I wouldn't be that person's friend, and it would all be associated to that, not being enough, and never being
Right.
always, you know?
What about your mom? Because you wrote a lovely dedication to your mom in this book. So she was the counterbalance to that, yet she had her own relationship with your dad that wasn't a beautiful role model for you, for man and woman relationships to be healthy. So tell me though about your mom and about your relationship with her.
So my mom, God bless her. She was raised also in a military home. Both my parents were, so I have that military background. She had fallen victim to abuse from her father. It's her story, so I don't want to bring it up here, but she was badly abused and she basically married her father. Again, the pattern continuing. And at first, the relationship seemed okay, like my dad had saved her. And then she became what I would call an emotional drunk. She drank to hide and numb her pain. People knew about it. We just didn't talk about it then. I mean, think about it, it was the 80s. Nobody talked about this. There wasn't resources. Children were meant to be, in my opinion, sorry, they were meant to be seen and not heard. So anything I said was either considered a lie or a fabrication. So it was very hard to get resources for myself as well. But my mom, she still maintained her elegance and put on that persona during the day when she was out, and she was a great housewife. Um, when I was 27, she was diagnosed with cancer, and she stopped drinking for a year before she died. So I got to meet my mom at 27, the real woman, the woman who could like beat me at Jeopardy. I mean, this woman was so intelligent, I couldn't believe it. She was just amazing. We bonded in that time. So I'm very grateful I had that year with her. I miss her dearly. I was only 28 when she passed. It's in the book and it's a great story. And I'm glad that I didn't hold anything in contempt, I guess you could say, because of what happened and how I had to leave home and she chose my brother and it was a lot of other stuff that went on. But I didn't understand all the circumstances behind it. And I just honor her every day, and the women that go beyond me and
Right.
my generation.
And I honor you because for that very purpose, not holding the grudge, being able to recognize your mother was stuck in her own way, in her own um, cycle of emotional addiction and pain, and recognizing she did the best she could with what she had, and taking the best of what she offered you and doing something with that. And you've definitely done that, and I thank you for that. um, I want to come to the title of the book. How did you come up with On the Other Side of Yesterday? Because I do love that, because without the subtitle, I mean, it takes me so many places, and I think the cover is so gorgeous. I'm like, I'm on vacation. So tell us about that title. How did you come up with it?
Well, like every good title or any good thought, it usually happens in the shower, right? We have great ideas. We're probably not really thinking of anything else in that moment. So originally the book was supposed to be called Emotional Suicide. And the subtitle was going to be Reinventing Yourself Without Actually Having to Die. And I felt it was long. So I was in the shower and I'm like, on the other side. And I'm like, on the other side of yesterday. Because I am on the other side of yesterday. And everybody can be on the other side of yesterday. Because yesterday's yesterday. We always talk about leaving yesterday behind.
Yeah.
And kind of looking forward. So that's where that came from.
I absolutely love that. And it actually, I said it could be like the title of well, actually, it could be like a soap opera, but it does read almost like a Netflix series, like you want to binge read, like binge watching. And it's a page turner, people. It really is. So tell us a bit about the structure of the book.
So originally I wrote the book with the stories and then just a question at the end. And the reason I did that is because I've read a lot of self-help books over the years, and I've never found like that it was engaging. So when I was talking to one of my family members in the UK this past week, they came up with a brilliant way to describe this book. And they basically said it's like having a private conversation with me without it being, open to everybody else. Because the self-reflective questions, who my publisher, Richard Tardif from Smiling Eyes Press, he really was able to capture what I was trying to do with this book. And what I love also about him is that he's a male. And he saw that I was good enough to be able to tell my story. And that was huge.
That is huge. I mean, think about that. And you've worked in some kind of male dominated industries too in your
Yes.
career, right? And I know you've actually done quite well, but I know you've had to, and you drive a truck. I mean, you came to visit me too, and we had to go, what was the monkey something place?
Gas monkey.
Gas Monkey Bar. That was one restaurant. That was something on her to-do list, along with the Dallas show, South Fork place. Anyway, we did all her to-dos. But no, Kimberly has, I feel like you've always had to try to show up, tough, if you will,
Yeah.
in
Yeah, I
life.
have. Oh, gosh, sometimes I wonder if my male side took over my female side a little too often. I would say I've softened over the years. I haven't had to basically stand up and hear myself roar. Not that that's an issue, but I've learned that I can roar. I can just do it a little quieter. That's all.
I love it. I love it. Um, so what was the most difficult or most challenging chapter to write?
Mom. Mom was the hardest to write. And I still cry every time I read it. If I read it to somebody or I'm reading it myself, it still just makes me cry. It was a really tough chapter.
I'm sure. I'm sure. And what was most rewarding chapter?
Great question. Coming to see you.
That's fun.
That whirlwind of 5 days where I know after I left, you probably needed a week of sleep. I felt that was a turning point for me. It was very pivotal. I was able to get on the plane. I was able to come and see you. I was taking back the reins of my life, my career. I met somebody. Everything started to fall into place. And I felt that going there and doing some of the things my mom would have wanted to do and being able to see you and spend time with you was an opportunity. And it was just a progression of where I had been to where I was at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a turning point for you. There was some emotional breakthroughs, I think, while you were here visiting me in Dallas. I moved from Montreal in 2019 in June, and Kim was my first visitor. She was here in August. So
Thank you.
it
It was
was like,
great.
It was come on down and bought her cowboy boots while she was here. Was that maybe the second trip? But anyway, but yes. So lots of breakthroughs, lots of change, and when we talk about emotional addiction, one thing that I think for any change, anybody's life, what I want any listener to understand, if they recognize that they have an emotional addiction in life, that it's really what you said at the beginning of the show, Kim, that it's this habitual pattern that you go back to something that's not good for you and you keep going back for that hit, whatever it is, trying to prove you're good enough. Going back, you get knocked down, you get up, you go back again, right? All of that first is the awareness. You
Agreed.
can't change that awareness. Then recognizing the source where it came from. In your case, the relationship with dad, right? That it came from home, came from childhood, which is so often the case. And then what is it? And then it's that, maybe it's not having a victim mindset, not blaming others. It's that taking responsibility. And I think you do that in your emotional suicide chapter, where you make a decision and it's a choice, and from that choice then it's learning the how to. And you talk about, you went to therapy. We can't all do everything on our own, people. You read a lot of books, you mentioned, Kim. So it's getting the resources and using them, and staying connected, recognizing how you're, and this could go for being addicted to drugs too, people. How is it compromising your life? What is it costing you to stay addicted? And how could your life benefit from breaking free? And Kimberly shows us this throughout her book and her stories. And I do love the way you've structured it, with questions after each chapter. There's, one, two, maybe three questions sometimes, to get the reader to reflect on their mindset, or you know to identify something, or and something positive sometimes about an achievement in a certain area. So great job on that, Kimberly. It is time for our second show. Everyone will hang around. We've got more coming with Soul CPR, so don't go far. We'll be back in a heartbeat.
Dr. RC will share extraordinary resources and services that promote educational success, as well as making a difference in the lives of all social workers, as well as the lives of children, adolescents, and teens of today. She will have open discussions addressing many of the issues that we face about our youth, and how being employed in the uniquely skilled profession of social work for over 18 years has taught invaluable lessons through her personal experiences. She will also provide real-life facts, examples, and personal stories that will confirm that why serving as a child advocate is extremely beneficial when addressing the needs of the whole child. Listen live to Dare to Soar, Saturdays, 10 a.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network, and TuneIn Radio, as Dr. RC will provide thought-provoking information that will empower, encourage, and strengthen students, families, and communities across our nation. You can also visit her at soarwithkatie.com. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness: Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them. We discover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I am here with Kimberly Whatmore, Kimberly Ellis, author of On the Other Side of Yesterday, Breaking Free from Emotional Addiction. And as you've learned by now, she's also a personal friend, someone I think of as a little sister. And I'm so happy to have her with me today. So we've been talking about this book and we've been talking about emotional addiction. And earlier, Kim, you told us, about publishing it, writing it, sharing it, and getting it out to the world. But tell us a little more about the process of working on it, publishing it, working with the designer and the publisher, editing. What do you want to share about that?
So when we'll get back to when I had cancer in 2020, but I had given up on the book. I had actually sent the book to a different publishing company, and I didn't get the feel, and it happens like that. You try, you see, whatever. So I just left it to the universe to figure it out. And so one of my girlfriends came in from Ontario, and she's part of a group called Toastmasters, where they do public speaking and they encourage people and they coach people on public speaking. And I was going to leave because I go to bed really early and these things are on so late. So I said, okay, I'll stay. And the gentleman, who incidentally turns out to be my publisher, comes up to me and he's like, do you want to do table topics? You just have to talk for 2 minutes. I'm like, well, that's not going to be a problem. I talk all the time. So it should be fine. So I didn't think anything of it at the moment. And then he goes, so Kim, come on up. And I'm like, oh God, I'm out first the gate. Oh my goodness. All right. I was going to kind of mimic whoever else goes up before me. It's a lot easier. So I get up there and he says, so the question is, if you could write a book, well, what would the title be? And I'm like, wait, hang on a second. I'm being pumped. Like, how did you know I wrote a book? And I told them the story about On the Other Side of Yesterday. And he came up to me afterwards and we started talking. And I sent him the first few pages and he loved it. And he said, you have something here. And he too reads when he did the assessment, it was like a Hallmark kind of, it could go either way. We could do it like as a romance Hallmark novel or as a self-help, but he knows I want to do self-help. And it's different. It's a different self-help because it's raw and it's real and it's not full of big fancy words because I don't know so many fancy words, but people can read it. So it's an easy read. And then I met him and we met, oh goodness, for 6 months, every Wednesday night after work. And we would go through the chapters and trying to fix that timeline. Oh, that was frustrating. And he was so patient with me. And then I met the lady who did the cover design, Dana. She's amazing. So she knew what I wanted. And in the history of book designing, it was done in 45 minutes. And that's never happened before. My brand, my logo, the color, everything was done. She knew, she could read me. So, and then it just started all pieced together.
It did. And tell us about Ellis, because your name is Whatmore. So tell us the name Ellis and give homage to that.
So Ellis is my mom's name. As a child, my dad would constantly tell my brother that he would be the one to carry the family name. No, women aren't going to do that, and that's fine. I still am my dad's daughter, but I wanted to pay tribute to the women who have suffered from generation to generation in my family and let them know that it's all good. I'm here. I got this. I got them.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So you'll notice on the book, it's by Kimberly W. to honor the Whatmore, Ellis now to honor her mom. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for, I was honored to write the foreword for this book, and what a pleasure and privilege that was. And I thank you for that. Thank you.
Oh no, you're amazing, Anne. Like amazing.
Thank you so much. So tell us, you mentioned you've had very positive feedback. Share some of the feedback you have received so far about the book.
So I get a lot of, oh, it's an easy read. I couldn't put it down. What I love is nobody's pointed out to me how bad it's been for me. And it's not been bad because I wouldn't be here. I mean, obviously it was bad then, but it made me who I am. And what I love is people are getting that and people are finding hope within this book for themselves and being able to reflect. I've had couples reading this book, which I wasn't expecting. Later on, being able to unpack maybe some of the stuff they've needed to unpack as well. So I found that really interesting. I do want to bring up the fact that there was a comment. I love my family, my in-laws, that it was, to my Andrew, is it hard to read? If anybody's going to put themselves out there, is it hard to read your partner's stories like that? And he says the only regret he has was not meeting me sooner. So I
Wow.
thought that just makes me want to cry. He's just so sweet.
And that's one of the beautiful things is that being on the other side of yesterday in her life, Kimberly has found a healthy love, a healthy, mutually respectful relationship, and that she's enjoying now and is engaged to her handsome, wonderful Andrew. And I'm so happy for her in that. You have had other challenges though, and you've mentioned cancer, and that you have conquered. But I
Mm-hmm.
feel like there's another book in you. Is there?
There is another book. Yes, we can all pay homage to that. I am in the process of writing the second book because I feel like my story is not finished, although I don't think anybody's story is ever really finished. Um, but yes, there is, because I did go through cancer. It was interesting because I met Andrew 5 months before I got diagnosed, and kind of did things backwards in our relationship, but I wouldn't change it,
Yeah.
because I don't know if I would have appreciated him or loved him the way I do now, because I really honored and learned to love myself. So the relationship is healthier. And I don't know if I would have appreciated him as much as before. So I'm kind of glad that he was there and he stuck it out. Boy, man, that man needs a big old sticker that says he's a saint, because boy, did he have to put up with a lot, because I'm in menopause like 100%. And I don't know if anyone's been dealing with that, but whew, that is a trip on its own, which is all in my second book.
I'm sure that, yeah, that'll be a good chapter from you, I'm sure, because you will make that one fun, which is not a fun thing. But and while cancer's not funny, I know that your sense of humor um, has helped you through a lot, and I have no doubt that it is something that helped you with both cancer and now menopause. But I know that you'll share more about that in your next book. Kim, there's a theme that I find true for pretty much everyone who has lost themselves in some kind of trauma or even emotional addiction or crisis, or uh, whether it's been a divorce, a death of a loved one, perhaps even empty nest, or retirement, job loss. But I find there's like a common theme when someone's identity has been entangled in other people or other things, and then they try to find themselves, right? And they're just perhaps beginning to practice self-care and self-love. And one of your chapters illustrates kind of about how to in such a beautiful way. And I'm going to ask you to read that
Sure.
chapter, please. It's chapter 34, pages
Yep.
165 and 166. Would you mind reading that for us?
No, not at all. And of course, I didn't bring my reading glasses because I'm
Okay.
old now. So my eyes aren't the same, but I will do my best to get through this. So
I'll
it's called
back you up.
Zumba.
I
Yeah, no,
got
it's
you.
called, yes. So it's called Zumba. Obviously, it's called Zumba. So for years, people suggested I try a Zumba class in Valois Village. I wasn't too sure if I could even follow. I started by going twice a week. I've gone 5 times a week. I love it. The music, the way my body moves, the way I tone up. I looked and felt fantastic. I also joined another group of ladies in another class. I'm fortunate to have 2 instructors who have also become my friends. The energy empowerment from dancing with these women has partly saved me. For 1 hour, strong women surrounded me, smart women. I could feel like I was part of a family. I recently discovered the term soul family. They bring unconditional love and support and share similar dreams and perhaps the same goals. I did not know this concept even existed. If you look around in your life, you have a soul family. How blessed am I to have had these women in my life? A sisterhood, all trying to get in shape, at least have fun dancing for an hour away. I would sometimes go to class feeling deflated, unloved, and sad, even knowing they will tell you I was always smiling and happy. And that was part of my persona, right? I always kept things nice and hidden. When I arrived, warm hugs and happy faces exclaimed, "So happy you came." When I could not attend class, I received text saying, "So sad you're not here tonight. We missed you." I can't tell you how important it is to be part of something. If you do not have blood or a partner, join a group. It doesn't have to be a Zumba class. It can be something that intrigues you. I love Zumba so much that on the first day at my current job, in front of the staff, I got up and did the routine for Megan trainers. Your mama raised you better than that. I was a hit.
Yes, you are. I have no doubt. But I I can't tell you how important it is to be a part of something, even if
Mm-hmm.
you have a partner, a job, kids at home anymore, whatever it is, to be a part of something and to take that step to get out and plug in somewhere. This chapter is the how to for everyone who finds themselves isolated and trying to find who they are again and
Mm-hmm.
try things until they find what they enjoy and what they love. And you sure found yours in one of those ways to feel alive again. And I love that chapter. It is really a how-to chapter at the end of the day. So the questions you put at the end of that chapter, and you call your questions turning points. And I love that. So the questions, how has the pursuit of your passion, such as Zumba, impacted your well-being and provided a sense of community or connection? I mean, that's it. We are human beings need community and connection and emotional addiction. We are emotional beings in this world. That's a different way. Find a different emotional addiction. Get that high somewhere else in a different way, in a healthy way. And then this concept of soul family, which I absolutely love. Kim asked, have you ever experienced a group or community where you felt a deep sense of camaraderie and support? If not, seek it. It's there. Some people find it in church. Some people find it in Zumba. Some people find it in um, book club. What is it for you? And if it doesn't exist, create it. Create what you
Exactly.
need. Because if you need it, so does somebody else, and put it out there. And then Kim asked, how did being part of this community contribute to your overall sense of happiness and fulfillment? Because that's what it's all about. When we're happy and fulfilled, that's a new thing happening in our brain. It's a new connection. And we don't have the pull, that desire to go have that other hit that's toxic for us. And with that, we're going to take our final break and we'll be back with more Soul CPR.
Mike Zorek, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorek, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorek has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
And we are back. Kim, it has been so much fun having you on. We were just saying during break that it's like we're sitting in the living room talking or having tea or something. But anyway, um, I have a favorite memory of when you visited me, and it's the first time you ate a scallop.
What's a scallop?
What's Anyway, I had the pleasure of introducing Kim to scallops, but that is just a favorite fun memory for me, and it's hard to not laugh with that. But anyway, we are at the point in the show when I would like you to tell everyone how they can get a copy of your book.
So you can go to, and I've had this problem before because I've had people from the UK ask me. So it's amazon.ca. Go to books in the menu, and then put in on the other side of yesterday, and it should populate my book.
All right. So that's important. It's not just Amazon, but even those of us in the States, just go to amazon.ca.
Yeah.
Again, that's representing Canada. And there is a picture of her book. It made a bestseller, #1 bestseller, and that is awesome. Again, it's an easy read, little short chapters, but you're going to want to binge read it because it is like binge worthy. All right, so that's that. So, Kim, also tell us about the types of speaking events that you do or you get invited to do and how you can support youth in case we have anybody listening that might want to get in touch with you.
Sure. I definitely keynote speaking. I feel like I'm following your footsteps a lot. Like you go do one and I go do one. Just recently, I was asked to do a anti-bullying. I would say like the start off of the presentation in the gym and get everybody kind of introduced to the types of bullying and all that. And I did it a little differently. I did not follow a program. I kind of designed it myself, and I also brought in my own personal experiences, including a few pictures where I was rocking a mullet, and it was pretty effective, and it led them into their breakout rooms afterwards. So I had kind of given them the foundation of it, and it was a lot of fun. I felt very comfortable, and I love doing that. So
Fantastic. And I know you've done like workshops and
Mhm.
seminars before.
Mhm.
Um, you can basically custom create whatever is needed. And I know kids really relate to you. I know in my coaching practice, I would often refer the kids of my adult clients to Kimberly when she had the capacity to do that because she just so readily identified with them and the struggles that they were going through when the parents were in trauma. And often the kids were then, it was relaying down to the kids. So um, if you want to reach out to Kim, Kim has a specific email. Caleb, do we have that available? The LSKW email? There it is, LSKW2024 at outlook.com for our listeners, viewers. You'll see it there. It will also be in the show notes. That's how you can get in touch with Kim if you're interested in having her present. It can be virtual, could be live. And then also, again, amazon.ca for her book. And lastly, Kim, what would be the key takeaway you would want listeners to have from our show today?
So great question. I've thought about that. And I think the best thing I'm going to say, the takeaway is start writing your own story.
Mm,
Just start writing your own stories. No one ever has to see it. Just write it. It is so healing.
it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Writing really is. And I know not everyone likes to write, but even if you just get it out of your head somehow,
Mhm.
right? Even we were talking on support group last night. Just dictate it into your phone. Just get it
Yeah.
out of your head somehow. Just put it as bullet points. You don't have to be a writer and use. I love how you said, maybe I don't have all the big words. You don't have to have big words. You don't have to have flowery language. Just get it out of your head. And there's something healing about that. And I would say to listeners, if you are someone who desperately seeks love, in all the wrong places, in all the wrong faces, right? Going from relationship to relationship in seemingly picture perfect beginnings, which a lot of people glamorize the beginnings, and then you have all these heartbreaking endings, then I would say, I can speak for both of us, that Kim and I would encourage you to do the inner work to identify that emotional addiction. do that awareness work, figure out the source, and get the help to break free from it and learn to love yourself so that you can recognize and then attract a healthy relationship. Because I think often when we're in that state, we don't even recognize what a healthy relationship is. Would you agree, Kim?
I would agree. And it's funny because it's almost like you're reaching for it and you know it's there. You got to want it. And then I'll tell you, it does get easier. I promise you it does. And that need, that whatever that you were addicted to does fade away. It does
Yeah.
because you're replacing it with the good things in your life. And I promise you it is worth the work.
Worth the work. There you go. Because nobody's going to tell you it's easy, but nothing worth it ever really is easy, but it is worth it. And I think that is that is cool. So choosing responsibility in how you live your life is an amazing gift of self-love. And what I'm hearing Kim say is that it will empower you despite your circumstances. And I think you'll see that throughout her stories and the progression of her life in this book, and the fulfillment and that evolution. Evolution is a good way to say it. To how you evolved is just
Mhm.
amazing, and the investment in the work is priceless. So thank you, Kim, for joining me today and sharing your wisdom with my
Thank you.
audience. I appreciate. So, as we conclude this episode of Soul CPR, I want everyone to remember that healing is not a linear journey. It is a process of profound transformation. And if today's stories resonated with you, please share this podcast with others who may need a lifeline of their own. Subscribe, rate, and leave a review so we can reach more hearts. And you can always connect with me on social media. It's at Skyview Coaching for Facebook, and then at Ann Papayotti on Instagram, LinkedIn, and X. And then of course, let me know your thoughts and your stories and topics you'd like to explore on any future episodes, because I really would like to make this all about what you need and want to hear. And so until next time, may you find strength in your vulnerability and courage in your journey. So breathe freely, love openly, and live soulfully. Until next time.
This has been Soul CPR with host Ann Papayotti. Breathe life back into your spirit with each episode, where she and special guests explore the relationships that hurt us and discover that healing can only begin with you. Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network.